As the Washington Nationals continue their slow and frustrating offseason, if you're a Nationals fan out there, you should feel frustrated. But why? I'll explain after this.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. And of course, you can check us out over on Twitter at RyanClary11 and as well as our show page at LO_Nationals. For all your latest Nationals news and notes, check us out over on X and of course, wherever you get your podcasts. Again, search Locked On Nationals on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get it. And that is where you'll find your daily coverage of the Washington Nationals. And as a little heads up, we are in the offseason portion of Locked On Nationals, so we are going down to 3 episodes per week, so keep that in mind going forward. Later on in today's program, we're going to be talking a lot about the prospects today because the Nationals, they've got a couple guys who have a ton of interest, in my opinion. It starts with Travis Sykora that we're going to get into in the second segment of today's program. He was first team all prospects from MLB Pipeline this past season. One of the best prospects in all of baseball in his rookie debut season. We'll have that for you later on in today's program. The third segment, Elijah Green, the 2022 first round pick by the Washington Nationals, a top 5 pick in that year's draft, and he has been struggling, to say the least. So what is his outlook on 2025 and beyond? We'll have that discussion for you in the third segment, but we always start off discussing something important, and that is just kind of the frustrations as a Nationals fan. And let me just tell you this, if you are a Nationals fan out there and you feel frustrated, you should be. I'll explain that. But before that, today's episode is brought to you by the college football playoffs, and the college football playoffs is here, and you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The college football playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games on December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Now we get into it with the Nationals. And if you are a Nationals fan out there, you should feel frustrated. You should feel just nothing at this point in time. Now, let me begin with this. Is the offseason done? No. It's December 18th. There's still much more to be done. Pete Alonso is still out there. Christian Walker is still out there. Corbin Burns is still out there. There's still a trade market for certain guys if the Nationals seem needy and want to address one of those things. You can address any of the holes that you have for the foreseeable future. But my frustrations with the Nationals begins with this. You don't really see any rumors out there. You don't see Jeff Passan or Ken Rosenthal saying the Nationals are close to this player. The Nationals are linked to this player. And there are reports out there from many different national media sites stating that the Nationals do have interest in Christian Walker. But also, do I really buy that? Because here's the thing. I have interest in $1 million house. I do. You see that house, the beautiful house down the street here? I have interest in it. What does that really mean? I can't afford that $1 million house. I'm not saying the Nationals can't afford Christian Walker. They can. The lies that have been stated out there, they can't afford whatever they want at this point. You can have a top 10 payroll and be just fine. But the Nationals, and the lack of all these rumors kind of spinning around, which was supposed to be a pretty big offseason, is a little discouraging. So yes, as a Nationals fan, I'm frustrated. Are you? I think you should be. And even getting into it, kind of diving deeper into this whole discussion of where the Nationals are and why they should spend. The Nationals you are ready for that next step. You see the farm system today, which, by the way, you now get to add a top draft pool in this year's class. You have the number 1 overall pick. It's going to get better. You already have a top farm system. Your payroll sitting here today is in the bottom 6th of all of baseball. You're one of the least spending organizations right now in the sport. You have room to go out there and spend and add in free agency. And I just feel like at this point in time, it doesn't feel that way. Now, Mike Rizzo, at the winter meetings just a week and a half ago, he was on the panel at MLB Network, and he discussed the Nationals offseason and stated that he does believe that the Nationals are ready to take that next step, and they do feel like they could add a veteran presence in the clubhouse and be okay with that. Now, let's get this thing straight. That is not a Mike Rizzo decision. Mike Rizzo gets to pick the ingredients, and he gets to shop for them, but he doesn't create that budget to go shopping. That starts at the top. And I think really right now, is it January or December 18th, and I'm just frustrated that the Nationals haven't signed anyone? Maybe. That very well just could be it. Did I wake up a little bit cranky? Maybe. Did I not drink my coffee until a little bit later on this morning? Possibly. But something about this offseason has been more frustrating than any one in years past. When the Nationals were going into 2019, I had no doubt that you would go out there and get a top starting pitcher, and they did just that, Patrick Corbin. Back in 2011, I was not really expecting the Nationals to go into that year signing Jason Worth, but you heard rumors of it, and they did just that. Back before 2012, you heard rumors of them wanting to add starting pitching. They went and made a move and traded for Gio Gonzalez and then gave him an extension to be a Washington National through 2018. The Nationals have done moves before. They have spent a ton on players. They have gone into free agency with a very clear plan. Back in 2015, you go into the offseason knowing you need a front-end starter, as Steven Strasburg necessarily can't really be healthy all the time. Well, Max Scherzer came in the building and won you a couple Cy Youngs and ultimately a World Series as well. They had a plan. My frustration stems from this. It doesn't seem like they have a plan. It feels as if this is a chaotic mess at this point, and they're going to be left hanging with crumbs on the table. I don't necessarily have faith in them even going after a Christian Walker type, let alone a Corbin Burns. I think they'll be shopping in the camp of a Jack Flaherty type. And I say that with a little bit of a negative connotation, but I don't really think that's all that negative. I think he's a good pitcher, and I think he would help this team. But we were thinking, I was not thinking this, but some people out there were, that we would even be in consideration for Juan Soto. That was never on our radar. That was never on Juan Soto's radar as well. They thought that maybe we'd be in on Corbin Burns. Never a consideration. He's still out there. Some people thought Max Fried. Some people thought Blake Snell. Not one rumor. Not one trace of a trail for the Nationals getting in on any of those big free agents. That is why I'm frustrated. This is supposed to be the offseason where you take that next step. And not just developing prospects, which they have done very well in my opinion. But where the Nationals sit today, they need a veteran in this clubhouse. And not an Ildemaro Vargas type, who, by the way, just signed with another team yesterday, so he's gone. Which, whatever, but still. You need something. You need to go out and get your Pete Alonso. Get your Christian Walker. Maybe surprise everyone and throw out a ton of cash and get Corbin Burns, which I don't see happening, but you understand the point. And if you're not going to do that, the farm system that you have, the depth that you have built up in this system, make a trade and get a star in the building. I don't know about you guys, but I am tired of being tired of this team. At times, they just feel as if they're so close, and it feels as if they're going to go all in. And they haven't really done that. And again, let me say this, it is December 18th. I can acknowledge that. But also, if you have faith in this team spending, I just don't understand where that comes from at this point. I can't see it. And they very much well could go out there and sign a couple big guys, and we are back in it. We are going to be making a postseason run this year. Who knows? Maybe they go make a couple signings, make a trade. That very well could happen. But how are you not frustrated with this offseason so far? And if you are, then I think you are in the right. You should be. This was supposed to be the offseason. And right now, it just looks like any typical offseason post-pandemic where the Nationals don't really do too much. And that right there is frustrating as you know what. Thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Next, we'll be discussing Travis Sykora. One thing that I really want to look at for Sykora here is, I'll say it, I don't think it's that crazy for Travis Sykora making his major league debut in 2025. Yeah. The third round pick in 2023 out of high school in Texas. I don't think it would be crazy to see that guy being the next Nationals ace even in the next season. You heard that right. We'll discuss that for you. But we start off with telling you about some of our very good friends over at SelectQuote. And of course, the World Series, the Super Bowl, the Olympics, and the world's top athletes get to play in these top level sporting events thanks to one thing: teamwork. And teamwork can also protect your financial legacy and your family's future. SelectQuote's licensed insurance agents are the perfect teammates when shopping for customized, affordable life insurance. They can find you the right policy to keep your financial legacy safely in your family's end zone. And of course, I can tell you about the importance of having strategies to win in both sports and life that lead. The leading strategy for life is having the best life insurance on your bench with SelectQuote to protect your legacy and your family's future. In sports, winning is everything, and that's why you always need a good strategy to keep you moving forward towards the goal post. Winning strategies for life are just as important, and that's why on my team, I have life insurance through SelectQuote to protect my legacy, my family's financial future. SelectQuote is one of America's leading insurance brokers with nearly 40 years of experience, helped over 2 million customers find over $700 billion in coverage since 1985. Thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get into it with Travis Sykora. And for those who are not familiar with Travis Sykora, let me just explain this. He is going to be your next Nationals top 10 prospect, not in the system. He's already that in all of baseball. So far, he is a top 100 prospect in Baseball America, as well as MLB Pipeline. And in my opinion, since Dylan Cruz technically still has his prospect status up, he is by far and away your Nationals number 2 prospect. And I don't think that's going to change. In fact, he's going to be your number 1 prospect probably the first week of the Major League season. But I'm here to tell you this. I don't think it's that crazy right now to think that Travis Sykora could make his Major League debut. And I point out some things here in years past. If you look at some of the youngest players to make their debut in a single season, think back to as of recently as last year with Yuri Perez and the Miami Marlins. 20 years old, only got up to Double-A, got flown up to the majors, in which he was wildly successful in 2023. He was one of the Marlins' best pitchers that entire season and looked great. Travis Sykora, while he may not be the prospect of Yuri Perez was a very special prospect. He's up there. And that's the not so crazy part about this. I also look at track records. And I think track records with the Nationals are very important, especially under Mike Rizzo. If you look at yearly debuts and guys who have been the youngest player in baseball, the Nationals, they are up there as far as the quickest team to kind of throw up their guys and make these younger prospects come and swim in the major leagues. I think back to 2020. Luis Garcia Jr. was the youngest player in all of baseball that season. In 2018, Juan Soto. Think back to 2012 with Bryce Harper, and 2013 for that matter. Under Mike Rizzo, if you are a top prospect and if you have talent, he is going to fly you up into the majors. That is now a track record of his. Now, here's also the thing here. What kind of movement will Travis Sykora have here? And number one, really the most important thing is, can this guy stay healthy? Well, I'm under the belief that he will, because that's just what he's done throughout his career, throughout high school and as well up into the minor leagues as well. I would not be shocked by any stretch of the imagination if Sykora is in this rotation come September. I even think that Travis Sykora, you can make the case for him starting in the minors at Double-A. Now, keep in mind, this was someone who was not he was not flown up the minors this past season. His first full season was, in fact, just in Low-A Fredericksburg, which, by the way, malpractice. Should have been up in High-A at the very least. He proved it, but still, they didn't want to rush it, and I guess I understand that part of it. But looking at some of these guys, and again, the track record of it, the youngest player in the National League was Jackson Chourio in 2024. Teenager, 19, 20 years old, and he proved it. He was great. One of the better outfielders in the second half of this season. But again, looking at the track record of this, Luis Garcia Jr., youngest player in the National League in 2020 and as well as 2021. In 2018, the youngest player was Juan Soto. 2017, Victor Robles. Looking back into 2013 and 2012, it was Bryce Harper. Those things stand true today. And I think the Nationals could follow suit here with a top prospect like Sykora. And if you look at the numbers and what he did this year, saying that he was dominant might even undersell just how good this guy was. Reading off his stats right now, in 20 starts, he had a 2.33 ERA, an 85 innings pitched on the nose. He had 129 strikeouts. His whip was at 0.906, only 5 hits per 9 innings, only 0.2 home runs per 9 innings, nearly 3 walks per 9 innings, and the most overwhelming one was 14 strikeouts per 9 innings. Travis Sykora was elite. Forget great. This guy is a premier prospect. And I think we have to start considering him to be that guy. He will be in the Nationals rotation at the earliest, or at the latest, by 2026, and I mean early 2026. If he continues on this track that I think he will continue to run on, aka being dominant, I could see him easily making his debut sometime maybe later on this season. And I don't think that's that crazy, by the way. Because again, you've seen it. Looking at the Miami Marlins, who were a competitive team in 2024, or in 2023 rather, if you look at what he did, talking about Yuri Perez, it would make a lot of sense for the Nationals to kind of follow suit here. Again, in 2023 in Double-A, made 8 starts and had a 3.19 ERA. The year before that, in 2022, in Low-A as well as Double-A, he had 18 starts over those 2 teams with Low-A as well as Double-A, and did pretty well, but still, Travis Sykora's numbers were much better than what Yuri Perez was. Now, this guy was also an international prospect, so the development pattern is a little bit different than someone coming out of the States. But the moral of the story is this. Don't be surprised if Travis Sykora makes his debut in 2025. It might sound crazy to you now because he was in Fredericksburg, but you've seen them do it with Jacob Young. You've seen them do it with Juan Soto. You've seen them do it with Bryce Harper. All the top guys who have gone through this system have made it out and done pretty damn well. So watch out for that in 2025. Speaking of prospects who were once top prospects, Elijah Green. What is going to happen with Elijah Green? Do you have faith in Elijah Green kind of just turning around for this organization? Can he get back on track and continue to be what we thought he would be? We'll discuss that after we tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, and get ready to tackle the NFL action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place, and you get a hunch in the middle of the game. You can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You've got the Eagles going up against the Commanders in Landover, Maryland this weekend. I can tell you this right now. I've got a Jaden Daniels over passing prop. I think he has a great game against those Eagles. And also, Saquon Barkley, unfortunately, is going to torch this team just like he's done over the last 6+ seasons. I expect him to have a big game. So when you do that, visit FanDuel.com to join today, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That is FanDuel.com, and never waste a hunch and make every moment more at FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Now we get back into it, discussing more Nationals prospects, and this time we get off with Elijah Green. Talking about Elijah Green is very difficult because this guy sitting here today, and if you're an everydayer, thank you. Second off, you've heard this before. If someone were to ask me at the peak of all their powers, all the tools under their umbrella, who has the highest ceiling for the Washington Nationals? And this is not who the best player is. This is not who will be the best player. This is who has the highest ceiling if they can reach the peak of their powers. And even considering Dylan Cruz in this situation, it's Elijah Green. Elijah Green has so much talent. So much talent. He is a star in the outfield, a stud of a center fielder. He has huge, massive power that he can generate huge exit velocities, and he has done that, by the way. But what gets in his own way is his bat and where we sit with that. 13 home runs this year over 106 games, 54 RBIs, and really what stuck out the most was, 206 strikeouts in 2024 in those 106 games. Elijah Green is going to be one of those guys where, what if he just turned out? Like, what if he just reached 70% of his ceiling? And let's say he's going to be a Gold Glover caliber type in center field, which, by the way, he could be. And second off, what if he just hits for 25 home runs a year? What if he's the next Joey Gallo with the Texas Rangers? That's all you're really asking for, because he is that good defensively where at some point in time, he's going to reach the majors because of his glove, if it's not because of the power. But I'm here to tell you this. Don't fully quit on Elijah Green at this point. It's easy to do that. It's easy to look at all the strikeouts and say, you know what? This guy is not going to make it. And he's still young. He's a puppy as far as baseball terms go, but he still has the sky-high potential. There's a ton of work to be had on his swing, and there's a ton of work to be had on his approach, and then to cut down on strikeouts. But again, if you look back at his high school stats, he struck out in nearly 20 to 25% of his at-bats at IMG Academy. He's playing the top talent in high school baseball. But still, when you're a top 5 pick in the MLB draft and you have all this talent, you would expect something to come from it. And unfortunately, we just have not seen that just yet. But I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Is the future looking so bright for him that we just cannot wait to see him in DC? That's not the case. But also, you can still get excited about the tools. And by the way, if the Nationals do decide to go off script this offseason and make a trade, Elijah Green could be a part of that package. And a team like, I don't know, I look at an analytical savvy organization like the Brewers, or maybe a team like the Mariners, someone that can really kind of tap into his analytics and find whatever is missing and find that piece, and he could be a stud someday. So I just wanted to mention that, as we don't really get to talk about Elijah Green too much, but he's still here. He's still got a high ceiling, and we'll see if the Nationals can develop him. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Have a good one. Go Nats.